Hello YouTube, welcome to the Driver Mod. My name's Anthony, and on today's video, we're going to be going over my Fanatec GT Clubsport Cockpit. Now, I've had this cockpit in my possession built for the last, week now. I ordered it on a late Friday evening, about almost coming up on 2 weeks ago, and it was delivered to my door that following Wednesday, so not even a week. Technically, I ordered it on a weekend, so technically 3 business days, and it was at my door. It has come to my attention that these are fairly new to the market, and not a lot of people have gotten them. They've ordered them or are still waiting. I'm not sure what the situation is on that. I can't speak to that, but I can say they do exist. They're not smoke and mirrors, and from my perspective, I definitely think it's a well-built rig. My initial thoughts, we'll get into everything. I've got a list of questions that I've had an individual reach out to me directly, and because he commented on the last video where I kind of announced what we had to get started here in the sim racing world, and he basically sent me a ton of questions that a lot of seasoned or more people in the know would want to know about this specific setup, and is it worth getting into. So I'm going to answer those to the best of my ability. I'm not going to bullshit you. This is my first sim setup. I've tried out a couple others just lightly, but this is the first one I've had in my possession. So take what I say from that perspective of someone that is fresh to sim racing. I've never sim raced before. I've been karting and tracking my personal vehicle for about 6 years now. I have a lot of real world experience, but very little sim racing experience. And I've finally gotten about, 4 or 5 days worth of experience now. So let's get to it. So basically I'm going to read each question and then go over that in detail individually. First question is, how rigid is it? All right, so when I unboxed this thing, and it came in 2 separate boxes, and they were heavy. The material, the welds, the build quality, you kind of can just, to me, I mean, I've worked on cars. I know what a quality material and a quality build setup is, and this thing definitely meets that. It is well supported, well structured, well secured, and very well put together. As far as rigidity goes, it's very rigid. I haven't detected any sort of flex in this at all, and I definitely have experienced some other setups that do have a little bit of flex. I haven't been able to detect any on this. Now, this is not, I don't have any motion on this, so as far as a motion setup add-on, I'm not sure how well this would do, but as far as a stationary setup, this definitely is a pretty solid piece. So just to kind of display that, moving the seat, I'm grabbing it from the top, the seat moves a little bit. I don't want to pull on the monitor, but the monitor stand is pretty well attached. And then, I mean, it's heavy, like I said. If you're trying to move this on your own, you can definitely move it. It's got 4 solid little supports. I would definitely not try to drag this across like carpet or anything, or if you are on carpet, I wouldn't put those posts on. It might slide a little bit easier. It's very heavy, very sturdy, but that's also just a fact that it's well built. I mean, you can pick the whole thing up and it's not gonna flex much at all. So as far as rigidity goes, I say it gets a solid A on that. Pushing down and up, pushing and pulling on the wheel, up and down, and there's very little movement at all. Next question is adjustability. Now this rig can be adjusted in 3 ways. You can move your seat forward and back, and then also up and down, angled, depending on what kind of seating position you're looking for. The entire pedal box moves. You've got about 18 inches of movement on the pedal box. Maybe a little less, maybe 14 inches. And then the wheelbase has about, I would say, about 10 inches of movement. So tons of customizability. I'm 5'10". My son is all of maybe 4 feet tall. And we are both able to sit in this setup and both utilize it. Now he's just a little shorter, so I have to boost him up a little bit with some pillows or whatever. But as far as being able to reach the pedals and the steering wheel comfortably for both my 7-year-old son and myself works perfectly. That was also a key factor in me wanting to get a setup like this. I tried a bunch of setups out, and there's going to be too much involved to try and get them set up to where I can use it and then he can quickly jump on, you know, right after the other. It'd be like 10-minute process for him to be able to use it, and then for me to change it back for my settings. So as far as adjustability, I would also give the GT Club Sport an A. Kind of to piggyback on the customizability and adjustment, he specifically asked how easy is it to go from F1 to GT. I assume he means making this seat go all the way up and all the way down in kind of like a lying position. Truth be told, I haven't tried that out yet. We'll get to the pros and cons later in the video, but I will just say adjusting the seat up and down is a little finicky. Next question is, he wanted to know about setup. How long did it take and kind of ease of setup? It took me and one other person about 2 hours to get this set up. There aren't very many videos out there showing what to do. The setup came with a QR code that you could scan, but it was like an 8 or 10-minute video from Fanatec on how to put this together. It wasn't super detailed, but I have never put a sim rig together before, and I was able to put this together with very limited instructions in about 2 hours. There's plenty of leftover hardware, probably for more adjustability and customizability. There's a lot of open holes on the frame to where you can mount other things, like if you want a shifter, keyboard stand, monitors, extra whatever. I'm not sure what all this could possibly be used for. I went with what was gonna suit my needs best to what I was looking to be doing. I will say, in terms of like setup and putting it together, I would probably give it a B, as far as how long did it take / build, just because the lack of detailed instructions. I know some people might not be as mechanically inclined as I am. So if you're not mechanically inclined and you've never put together a sim setup before, it might be a little bit challenging, and you're definitely probably gonna need a second person. But I was able to make it happen because I'm very mechanically inclined. So the basic instructions that were provided with the QR code, I was able to make work. Next thing he wanted to know is about like cable routing. You can really route it however you want. However, there are some really cool cutouts inside these pillars right here where you can route all your cables out of the way, and specifically the edges, they're not sharp. They're very well beveled and smoothed out, so you don't have to worry about cutting your fingers when you're trying to pull these cables through, as well as cutting the cables themselves. So very, very nice. Kind of keeps it clean and tucked out of the way. And then also down here underneath the pedal box, there's a little tray that you can put. I have like my monitor, power box, and my my drive wheel base, my direct drive base little power box. I have that under there. So it helps keep everything clean and tidy. And if you want to like tie strap, you know, excess cords to these structures, by all means, do it. None of this is sharp. So really well thought out as far as, and the fine details in terms of doing all that. A lot of times you'll have metal pieces, especially thin metal pieces like this. They'll be very sharp to touch. So I was very impressed with the lack of dangerous edges on this entire setup. So definitely fine details like that, and cable routing, that's definitely an A to me. Now, I'm not going over these in any particular order. I'm literally going off them based in the order that he wrote them. So if it seems a little unorganized, I apologize. I just want to make the editing process as easy as possible. So I'm not doing this in any particular order other than the way he wrote them down. Next question is the monitor / screen mounting. What's the maximum size screen or monitor size it can accommodate? Can it be tilted or angled for smaller drivers? Well, this monitor is a 49-inch curved OLED monitor that I got off Amazon. I will have linked in the description below. It was a one shot, one try, but this monitor directly mounted up to the base, or the monitor base, that this GT Clubsport Cockpit has. It is a Samsung unit, and I would say you have about, let's see, like about 6 inches of forward and back adjustability on the monitor. As far as tilting it though, there is no adjustability there. However, if you were clever enough, you could put shims underneath the actual monitor stand base, and that can angle it. So forward and back adjustment, super easy, about six inches of adjustability. As far as angling it, unfortunately, unless your monitor stand or your monitor base has adjustability, then there is no angled adjustability. Steering wheel adjustability, we kind of already spoke on that. You have about 10 inches of adjustability. It can be adjusted forward and back, and then also you can angle it by releasing these on the side, and then you have a quick pin if you want to just drop it real quick. So super easy there to me. So this next question is a little long. It says, how heavy is it? Is it easy to move once assembled for a single person that's maybe sharing a living space with their family, animals? And I've already mentioned this. It came in 2 separate boxes for a reason. It's very heavy once it's put together. And once you add a monitor on that and then the seat, I mean, this thing's probably in the 100 to 120 pound range, total guess, but it's definitely heavy. You can definitely move it. I don't know how heavy most sim setups are, especially one that's this rigid, but I would say ease of mobility, it's probably pretty average for its size. And then the space that it takes up is basically limited on your monitor screen. If you were to have a 32-inch monitor, this thing would take up, like a 4-foot area wide and like a 7-foot area deep. That's all the space you need to fit this setup in. Now he says he'd like to see it in the maximum F1 position. So I'm assuming this guy does a lot of F1 sim racing. And honestly, that is probably my biggest con with this entire setup is the adjustability of the seat. It's a little bit of a pain because you release one side, you release the other, and to get it to snug back into the right slots, that's a little bit of a pain. If you're going to be changing this seat constantly back and forth, unless I'm doing something wrong, I've never really had to mess with the seat position before, but you just got 4 of these, they loosen, and then you slide the seat forward so that it's in the center here so it can drop down and up, and then you lock it in. But you got to do that on both sides, and while you're doing one side, the other side might fall or it might raise, and it gets kind of annoying. So I would say that's probably my biggest con with this whole setup. Now I'm trying to think back to the install and setup. I cannot remember if these seat brackets came with the seat or the rig. I believe they came with the rig. However, I would just look at the Fanatec website. I'm sure information like that's got to be listed on there. If I had any other criticisms, it would kind of be the installation instructions again. Like all the bolts and stuff, they're individually packaged, but because there was no physical instructions telling you which numbered bag went with which numbered piece, because each piece has its own number and each bag had its own number, but I didn't notice a correlation between each bag of parts and each item of the structure. So there could definitely be some better installation instructions. And if I hadn't been figuring it out for myself the first time, I probably would have made some sort of video. So I do apologize about that. But again, we got it put together and it's worked out fantastic. And then the good, I think it's a tremendous value. I think the look, it looks really good. It looks cool. It looks sporty. I was looking at some of those other bases that are kind of more like square and up tall and more upright and boxy. And this just has more of a sporty feel to it. And I'm a huge sports car fan. As you can see, we've got an Audi TCR wheel and tire. We've got a Mustang Challenge hood from a damaged car from the 2024 season and a door from the 2024 season. This is my thing, guys. Sports car racing, endurance racing. I'm a huge fan of that. So aesthetically, it checks all the boxes. It has the look that I wanted, and it was a great value, and the build quality and rigidity, fantastic. Thank you for watching this Q&A video on the Fanatec GT Clubsport Cockpit. Now, should you get the GT Clubsport Cockpit? In my opinion, absolutely. Whether you're entry level, intermediate, or advanced, it's a great starting point for the beginner guys, but it also has the ability to add on several pieces for the intermediate and advanced level guys. So as far as being able to do it all, from my point of view at this point in time, I definitely think it can do that. It's met all my needs so far, and I'm a really big fan that it's able to be used by both myself and my 7-year-old son, and changing between the two is relatively easy. Now, if there's anything that you'd like me to go over in another video or anything that I missed in this video, drop a comment down below. I read all the comments and I will do my best to get you guys that information. So that is just kind of my quick overview of the Clubsport GT Fanatec cockpit. We didn't go into the rest of the setup altogether. I was just really focused on the cockpit itself. Really nice. It's available in black or white. I went with black, as you can see here. Overall, I would really give this setup an A grade. If you're new to sim racing and you're trying to figure out what direction to go, I mean, this entire setup minus the monitor, all the Fanatec gear that you see here, I got for like $2,300 shipped, brand new, and put together in about 2 hours. So if you're someone that was like me and you were struggling with, you didn't know where to go, there's so many options, what's gonna work, what's not gonna work, what's gonna work together, what's not compatible, all that. This right here, and then throwing in the monitor, I can speak to this monitor and this monitor only, bolted directly up to the monitor base. No problem at all. Again, I'll leave that link in the description below. I'll leave this full setup, everything that I have here that I ordered. I ordered this all in one shot. I will link those in the description below, or I'll put like a checklist so you can look at each individual piece. So if you want to completely mimic what I've done here, you can have your own setup for under $2,300. The monitor was about $900, so $3,200 all in, completely brand new setup.